thought was missing, and the individual was actually taken to a hospital already. So that's where we know we are going to continue to check out. We have a team here from Boston Fire Department that does structure searches, and they have a dog with them. So they'll be putting an extra set of eyes, but they have notified, or at least been notified, that the individual they thought was missing has been found and located. So, I'm sorry.
Well, I've heard reports that this happened.
Of our knowledge right now, and again, I would tell y'all all that this is all very superficial at this point as we're trying to understand what occurred. We have a major construction project going on at the facility, expansion, and the new central plant appears like where that occurred. I understand it was a possibility of gas line and maybe some activity going on with that generated, and it was quite a blast that occurred out of there.
We've heard from several first responders that there has been some considerable damage to some of the buildings.
Certainly that area, that new construction area, is extremely damaged. We can look again. This is all very preliminary. We immediately evacuated the building. I can see damaging. We're a little bit of a unique facility in Texas. We have, not only do we operate an acute care hospital, but we have a independent living and assisted living and a nursing home for a continuum of care on site. So I can look at the Meadows, our 90-bed nursing home. I see some damage in other parts of the building that appear related to a shock wave to me that occurred when the blast occurred. I can see some damage across the street in some of our ancillary services that are over there. The good thing is that our staff, along with all the support we have this community and surrounding areas, I can't tell you how quickly they responded as these things started unwrapping. I know that we had triage areas set up out back as we were triaging folks with our medical staff and nurses there, at the same time evacuating the building and trying to get residents and patients located in the proper facility, and it all happened within a very reasonable and short time frame. We also operate the ambulance service for Gatesville and a big chunk of Coryell County as we talk about that, so our EMS crews were right there and actually worked very closely with Bob and as far as our emergency command centers as we began what needed to occur. I will tell you that the facility is shut down today. I can't tell you when we will reopen. We have moved patients, again, as you discussed, to some other locations in Texas. We moved a lot of our acute care patients, and you can address that to Clifton.
Yes.
We had evacuated some of our nursing home residents to another nursing home here. I think that 21 went there. We have some currently at the Coryell Community Church. We have some of our assisted living residents and independent living residents right now at, I think, the Methodist Church here in Gatesville. We have plans that we're putting in place right now to get them located for the night, probably outside of the community, as we understand what structural damage we have and what infrastructure damage we have to the gas lines or electrical service, because it's all out right now, and understand when we're going to be back operating today. Our discussions before we came here is tomorrow for our facility and the clinic that we operate here and the other services. Probably all that's going to be online is our ambulance service as we go back in and regroup. Coryell Memorial, we employ probably about 550 people, 450 full-time equivalents as we talk about that. We've got a great staff that responded and came in as we worked with that. Besides the support that we got from all our surrounding communities, we have state resources on site as we speak for buses and things for additional folks that we're having to move around the state to get them located for the evening. We will be sending support staff with them to be sure they're taken care of. Their families are being notified as we talk about that, what these decisions are and where they'll be. There'll be a personal one-on-one communication as we talk about that. So.
How many patients were inside?
Pardon me?
How many patients were inside?
You want to address? Yeah, come up here.
I'm Dr. Jeff Bates. I'm the Chief Medical Officer. I was also the doctor taking care of the patients in the hospital today. On any day, our hospital is a small community rural hospital. We have an average daily census of about 10. So a few of those patients were in the process of being sent home this afternoon. After we assessed the damage and made sure everyone was safe and safely evacuated, immediately reached out to our friends in Clifton at Goodall Witcher, and they were able to take our patients that are in the hospital, as well as the ones that were
I think there were 12 that we moved that direction.
As well as the patients that were in the emergency room. One of our ER doctors was actually on duty in Clifton, and so I sent our nurses with the patients, and then I'm going to go over there and see the patients to continue with the continuity of care.
You were in the building at the time that this happened?
Yes, ma'am. We were in a board meeting when it occurred.
Can you
So
guys
we were-
explain to us what you felt, what happened from your end, because you obviously weren't in that.
It was a tremendous blast. It felt like a bomb had exploded. I would tell you that was the first thought that went through my mind. I think we immediately started expanding toward our acute care and residential areas to see what had occurred. It occurred to me at the time. I turned around and went back to our dietary unit and went back. I thought maybe something had happened there. And then as I went out the back of the building, it was obvious what had occurred. So. It did have a fire at some point. It was not that severe at the point in the initial blast, but our local volunteer fire department did a great job of coming and getting that under control.
You said that patients were taken to Clifton. Were any taken to other hospitals outside of Coryell County?
The major trauma patients, the patients who were involved in the blast, the construction workers with critical injuries, they were evacuated by helicopter or ambulance to local trauma centers and to the burn unit in Parkland. The routine patients that were already in the emergency room and the routine patients that were already in the hospital were stable, and we sent them to our neighboring facility at Clifton.
Okay. So it was construction personnel who were in the new construction area that were taken to the
There were no staff, no patients of the hospital that were injured. This was purely in the construction area. Construction workers were the ones that were injured.
After I've seen the damage, I would tell you that it's certainly catastrophic what occurred. I think we're very fortunate and blessed that there were no more injuries than there were.
I believe you said there were 12 injuries total. How many of those were considered critical?
At least 3 or 4 that I saw. It's difficult to assess with blast injuries because there's a delayed reaction, and smoke inhalation and fire, you don't fully appreciate their airway damage until the next hour or two.
Do you guys know the name of the construction company that these workers work for?
I don't think that would be appropriate for me to talk about that at this time. I have an indication, but I'm not 100%. So, our contract, and that would be on the page or anywhere else where our major construction is with Adolphus Peterson, a major construction firm out of Dallas. I believe they're on site now looking at what occurred. As far as the subcontractor, we'll have to discuss that a little further.
So the critically injured are mostly construction workers?
They're 100% of them were.
100% construction
Yes.
workers.
This was in a construction area. There were no patients in that area. There was no staff in that area. We're trying to assess the damage of the whole facility to make sure that it's safe for all the patients to go back in, the nursing home patients and assisted living patients that live on campus. On any day.
Yeah, on any given day, we have, between residents and patients, we have 140 to 150 people on our campus that are part of our delivery system.
And there's no time frame that we think that they're going to be able to...
It's too early for me to assess that. I obviously have been trying to reach out and ask those kind of questions, but it's just too early for me to tell you because, if it's a gas line, it can affect other infrastructure within the building. Our computer systems right now are up and running because our main generator wasn't damaged with that. But until we can get back in there and understand what occurred, we don't know exactly when we'll be open. The power did come back on, I think it knocked out power in the community for a while. Am I correct?
That is
I think
correct.
I heard
West
that.
end of the city.
Right, and it did come back on the east side of some of our complex there, so we do have some power there, but certainly the campus as a whole, or the major part of the campus, is still without power. We understand what occurred there. I did understand in one of our wings in the nursing home that we have light fixtures that knocked out and on the floor, probably exposed wires, and a few different things that we have to get in there and assess before we go back. And some windows blown out and some doors blown out and some different things. So.
It's home to 150 patients. back as soon as possible, but we want to do that safely.
And again, what I was trying, our staff does a lot of training. I'm not going to tell you daily, but disasters, we certainly never expect a catastrophic, an event to this magnitude, really is the interruption to our service lines. But I can't tell you what a fabulous job they did. And the support has been overwhelming.
Maybe I'm confused. You said 100. It's home to 150 patients. But didn't earlier you just say 10 were there?
No, because we have a nursing home, we have an assisted living, we have independent apartments.
But just the hospital's 10 and
Right.
50.
Hospitals
Right.
10.
It's all connected on the campus. So
They're all safe. We just want to make sure they're safe to go back to their
clinics, so
home.
both our clinics are shut down right now as we do that as well.
But the people not living in the clinics or the hospital are still within the facility, or everybody was evacuated?
Everyone's been evacuated.
Everybody.
To be clear, you guys are closed for today, and what are you planning to reopen? I know you,
Certainly, we plan to reopen. I just can't tell you the time
obviously
frame.
the whole campus, but I mean, you mentioned there were parts that you might be able to open sooner.
I can't answer. I hope that's the case. I can't answer the question yet.
Okay.
We operate the EMS service for Gatesville and McGregor, and they're still up and running and taking care of our patients.
We collaborate with a dialysis center across the street that's on our campus, wound care, and my office currently today is across Memorial Drive on the east side of that. That center is back up and operating, but I don't know that all, other than EMS, that any of those service lines will be open tomorrow as we continue to assess different things that have occurred within those buildings.
So it doesn't injure construction workers. Any related injuries or anything from any of the support people that came in?
No, I think our staff has done a really good job. There were plenty of bottles of water brought from multiple places in the community. It was a hot day, but we kept them in the shade and evacuated them efficiently.
Anything you need from the community?
It's prayers and support at this point. Thank you.
Any more pressers tonight? Anything like that?
All right, everyone, if you're just joining us here on News Now, part of Fox10Phoenix.com, good afternoon or evening, depending on where you're watching us from. Pilar area signing back on here to let you know the latest on this. Emergency crews responded to a hospital in Gatesville, Texas today following reports of an explosion and a partial building collapse. The explosion took place at a construction site of Coryell Memorial Healthcare System. That's according to KWTX, the station providing us this feed. Firefighters responded to the incident around 2:30 local time. A hospital spokesperson confirmed to the news station that there were injuries but didn't provide specific numbers. She said she wasn't told of any deaths. Hospital patients were being evacuated from the building and from two nearby nursing homes. Reports of a partial building collapse circulated online, but the extent of the damage wasn't immediately clear. Witnesses said the explosion happened when a generator exploded in an area of the hospital that remains under construction for expansion. The Texas-New Mexico Power Company said the explosion knocked out power for a large portion of the city. Looks like Department of Public Safety is giving an update here. Let's continue listening in.
And making sure the property stays secured since it's without power and obviously has sustained damage.
Any idea how many law enforcement people were here today? Ballpark.
It was crowded. It was crowded. I don't even have a number for you for DPS personnel. We have staff from emergency management, incident command. We have staff, of course, highway patrol. We have our supervisory staff on scene. So we're very well represented, and we're assisting.
And a lot of volunteers, I would tell you that.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of just our citizens showed up in droves to help.
Including our constables. They were directing traffic.
All right. Well, thank you, guys.
Sorry.
Yes.
I don't know if you gave like a 411 before I arrived. I was wondering if...
No, you were here when the briefing started.
Oh,
as far as law enforcement goes,
as far as the law enforcement, the investigation.
yeah, the local agencies that are involved right now, they're actually busy. They're not here. And like I said, we're a support role in the DPS, and we're here to help them out, which we are doing as we speak. But the local agencies with the Sheriff's Office and the PD are both extremely busy at this time.
And it has been deemed as an accident?
As far as we know, everything's preliminary right now. You know, the state, last thing I heard, the state's going to assist with the investigation, and I believe there was a federal agency on site as well. So,
Any theories of how?
We don't speculate at this point. We want to make sure we're right when we let you guys know.
You said the investigation is being done locally, so Sheriff's Department and PD together, or is
We have State Fire Marshal coming in.
We have,
Fire Marshal?
I knew that. State Fire Marshals here, as long as federal agencies, along with state agencies, and local.
Sorry, who's the federal agency?
I don't want to speak for another agency at this time.
I believe I noticed a vehicle from Flower Mound, which would be in the Metroplex area. As far as I believe it was maybe sheriff, police. Are you able to say, as far as law enforcement goes, who came from the farthest, about how far has this reach gone as far as assistance?
Bob, you probably know better than I would.
Well, we had Bosque County come down to assist. Those are the farthest, and of course, we have, I would like to say that the vast majority of the state were DPS and TDM.
Now, I can tell you.
The school system also responded with air-conditioned buses, as we needed to transport those. So.
Yeah, what I can tell you as far as law enforcement response, while I can only speak on behalf of DPS, I can tell you that Coryell County and all the agencies inside Coryell County and pretty much every surrounding county I saw at the scene. So, all right, thank you.
And just on the issue of the state fire marshal, in a lot of counties the size of Coryell in Texas, and most of the 254 counties don't have a trained, certified, licensed fire marshal who's also a law enforcement officer, and as a result we really have to turn to the state.
Yes, sir.
And the state fire marshal in fact has someone en route, if not already here, and they're licensed both in terms of the fire aspect of this, from an explosion aspect of it, as well as a law enforcement to investigate. And the state fire marshal then would turn over anything from their investigation that would be appropriate for any law enforcement agency to better determine, or in this case, based on the context of your questions, to rule out those things that clearly as part of an investigation need to be ruled out. But at this point, we have no reason to believe that this was anything but an accident, but because of what's happening around the country and in the world, nothing can be ruled out, and that's the great thing about having state partners that can come in and lend a professional ear and try to determine what can be ruled out, and in fact whether this truly is what we think it is, merely a construction accident. And I shouldn't say merely, because any accident that takes this kind of damage in life is critical. But we certainly, at the end of this process, will be able to tell the Coryell Memorial CEO as to what the likely cause was, and we think we know, but the state officials will help us get to that point. And again, we would thank everybody that's been involved, and Dr. Bates and your staff. The first thing that went through our mind was, my goodness, one, if it's going to happen next to a hospital is as good a deal as anything. But then, of course, the reality sunk in real quick, and that was, okay, there's an upside that it happened near the hospital where, of course, professional medical staff would be located. But, of course, then we're worrying about victims and those people that the hospital staff has to take care of in the process, which, of course, complicates their mission. And the Coryell healthcare system did an incredible job throughout their extended campus, if you will, meaning the hospital and the EMS, the Meadows and the Oaks, both nursing and healthcare, assisted living, to provide quality care from a standpoint of not just treating the patients, but the standpoint of doing what needed to be done in order to relocate. And I can't even imagine, Carly, what you've been going through just in trying to keep track of everybody. But our hats are off to everybody involved today, and David, you and your staff.
All right, everybody. Fox 4 in Dallas, that's KDFW, our sister station, is saying at least one person was killed and about a dozen people were injured after the explosion at this Central Texas hospital. We'll continue to listen in here.
To provide health care here at a quality level, and we will be back as soon as we possibly can. So we will let you know as that unwraps. So.
Probably going to come up for a minute.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marketing Director at Coryell Memorial Healthcare System. We would like the press conference to update you all tomorrow, same place here at 11:45. Okay, do you have any questions?
Can you say who the federal agency is that's here?
No, I don't want to speak on behalf of a federal agency, thank you.
I don't think who's saying that they're here is speaking on their behalf.
I'm sorry.
No?
Which is not unusual.
I mean, it's unusual to not mention which agencies are here.
There are agencies up there, state, and I know of at least one federal agency up there now. So. But I think they came out of concern primarily.
And primarily, as you can imagine, to rule out what the immediate concern might have been. So you can draw a conclusion from that they're here out of the utmost precaution to make sure that they can confirm that this was not something other than an accident. And at this point, we have no reason to believe, there's no evidence to indicate that it was anything other than an accident, but clearly events and investigations will have to play that out.
And we'll have definitely a lot more information for you tomorrow around 11:45.
Thank y'all. We need to leave. I apologize.
Thanks, David.